I see the man of the hour has entered the room. And first of all, congratulations,
Yep.
Congressman Fallon. So I want to introduce him. Congressman Fallon has represented North Texas in the Texas legislature since 2013. He proudly serves as our congressman for Texas's 4th congressional district. He serves over 700,000 of the great Americans in this district, who he fondly calls his bosses. Prior to his time in the Texas State Senate and House, Pat enjoyed a decades-long successful entrepreneurial career, having founded over a dozen successful companies. He raised funds for pediatric cancer research. Pat entered what has been billed as the world's greatest endurance challenge in 2016. Congressman Fallon is a graduate of the University of Notre Dame, where he played varsity football under legendary coach Lou Holtz, and was a member of the 1988 National Championship team. Pat received a commission to serve as officer in the United States Air Force, where he was stationed at Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas. Pat has been happily married to his lovely wife, Susan, for 18 years, and they have 2 boys, Thomas, who is 16, and Matt, who is 13. Congressman Fallon, come on up.
My wife jokes and says, we're married 22 years, 18 happily. Do we need the mic for this? Or?
It's up to you.
No,
You're plenty loud.
You don't have to. No. So what I want to do is give you as much information as I can, packed in the limited amount of time. Unfortunately, congratulations, Chris, that we have. And I'll tell you why I have to leave early. I was honored in the last couple days. The University of Notre Dame is playing the Naval Academy in Baltimore on Saturday. And they always have, it's a part of a weekend, they make it. And they have a lunch. And the Navy Notre Dame lunch is a big and really great tradition, because the Navy bailed out the University of Notre Dame in World War II. Of course, enrollment went down dramatically when 18 to 22-year-old men are fighting in two theaters of a great war. And the university was going under financially. And the Naval Academy said, you know what, we're going to do a lot of ROTC training. We're going to have our cadets/students go to your school. And there were hundreds of kids, and it saved the school. So in return, Notre Dame said, well, we're always going to play you in football. And that's why Notre Dame and Navy are always, the Navy will never be taken off the schedule. Anyway, they have an official lunch. And typically when Notre Dame, let's say, plays Clemson and crushes them, it's just a Notre Dame luncheon, but not when it's Navy. It's a joint luncheon between the Naval Academy and the university. And they've asked me to speak at the lunch. And it's tomorrow at noon, or tomorrow at 11 a.m. Right. So there's a flight out of Dallas tonight at 8:40.
You'll be on
I know, I'm over it out. And I said, but I'm not missing the Rockwell Hispanic Club, so we gotta figure it out. So anyway, here I am, and thank you. I want to talk about immigration and the border. So I want to give you as much information as I can in the limited amount of time we have. The worst month we ever had with illegal border crossings was April. It was 239,000, which was 1,258% worse than the last April President Trump had been in office. Only to be eclipsed by the very next month of May, which was 241,000 illegal border crossings. 930% worse than the last May President Trump had been in office. It hasn't gotten any better, it's only gotten worse. The media hasn't really covered it since February and March of 2021. But it's atrocious. The Mexican drug cartels are controlling our southern border. That's why you see a major shift along the border with Mexico in Texas, with Hispanic Americans leaving the Democratic Party, their traditional home for over 100 years, to come to the Republican Party. Because A, the Democratic Party has drastically changed and really has left a lot of those folks rather than leaving the party. But also they're sick of the 4 C's: the cartels, the crime, the chaos, and the corruption. They're done with it. They're sick of letting the Mexican oligarchs and the drug cartels export their corruption to our country. And they're leaving it in droves. Mayra Flores did lose. I thought she was going to win. But it was a Herculean task that was being asked of her. Joe Biden would have won the newly drawn district by 18 percentage points. That is not a competitive district. She made it one. She lost by 8 points, which meant that if it was a plus 10 district, she would have won. We got to talk to our legislature about why they drew that district so poorly. They did need to draw it that way. They're going to defend it, but I know because I was on the Senate redistricting committee. They could have drawn it differently and made it competitive. But anyway, Myra's not done, and I think she will be back. And if it continues to shift those sands, she's going to be back in Congress too. So we get to serve with her for 2 more months. But Monica Dela Cruz in Congressional District 15 did win. First time since Reconstruction, that area is going to be represented by a Republican. So these are cracks in the grand blue wall in the south, on the border, because they don't want the cartels to be emboldened any more than they already are. They make $30 billion a year roughly as their GDP, but now they're making an additional $14 billion, and I'll tell you how. They charge $4,000 per person to cross the border illegally. And if you don't pay, you don't have your med bracelet that the cartels give you, they'll probably kill you on the spot in front of the group that you're with. Maybe your whole family too, to create, because they're a terrorist organization at the end of the day. That add on that 30 billion, another 14, they're already, Mexico's already a de facto narco state. Now some of the shifts we have seen is the majority of people that crossed the border last month, it was 227,000, well in September, the month that we have figures for, were not Mexican. In fact, the majority of the people that crossed the border were not Mexicans, Guatemalans, El Salvadorians, and Hondurans, which is typically where the folks come from. They only made up 44%. The 56% was from everywhere else in the world. What Joe Biden has done is made all 50 states border states, but also made it a global crisis. 160 different countries are represented by folks that are crossing that border. 98 people have been apprehended that were on the terrorist watch list. What is it going to do to wake Americans up? There was not a red wave, it was a red trickle. There were waves in certain areas. Florida was a wave. Not only did Governor DeSantis win by 20, I thought Florida was a purple state. He won by 20 points. All 6 competitive, contested congressional races in Florida were won by the Republicans. New York, you know what? You want to write a letter to somebody? Thank him. Thank Lee Zeldin. And if you want to, you can give it to our office and I'll hand them to him personally. In fact, why don't we do that? Why don't we tell all the other clubs, and I'll do that across the district. Let's do that. Let's write letters, handwritten letters to Lee Zeldin thanking him. He got 47% of the vote in New York State running for governor because they're sick of the crime. And he pulled a lot of congressional candidates. We had a lot of wins. My friend George Santos, he was with us in orientation because he was up by so many votes, but in New York State, because of COVID, they let him count 10 days beyond. And George lost and had to go home. Well, he won. He's coming now. Thank you, Lee Zeldin. They were heroes. We had a lot of great candidates in California, and we're winning state. Michelle Steele and Young Kim are members of Congress, my class. They were born in Korea, naturalized American citizens. They actually knew each other as they were childhood friends. Anyhow, they won barely in 2020. And I went out with Steve Scalise and a few other members to help them and other members along the West Coast. They won. It was Young Kim said, Pat, I'm polling plus 19 right now. It's supposed to be a battleground district. And I said, oh, well, I don't have to give you a check. She won by 19 points. Wow. The polls were right. People are responding. So candidates matter. Nevada, I think Laxalt's going to win. I think they're trying to find votes, those union folks in Vegas. I don't know. It takes an awful long time to count paper ballot. What's going on? Did we? Hey, yeah, right. I know, but you can count. I don't care how you can count and be done 6 hours after the polls close. Yeah. We went to the moon 50 years ago, did we not? We can't count. It takes 6 hours. That's ridiculous. We did it in Texas. They can if they want to. For some reason, they don't want to. And what we need to do is push back. Even though they'll call us election deniers or other pejorative names, you tell me why we can't count the votes within 6 hours. This is ridiculous. It's inexcusable. And you know what? Every vote counts. Let me tell you a little story about over in Denton County, Texas. Good friend of mine. She worked for us when we were in the Senate. Great Hispanic conservative. Elisa Carrasco Beasley. She ran for mayor of Pilot Point, Texas. All the ballots were counted. She is down exactly 1 vote. And there are provisionals. And there are mail-ins. She's pretty sure she's got 3 more votes coming. I mean, you want to talk about a sweat. But they were all counted that night. So it's 1 vote. 1 vote you actually can. Typically, if you're down in a small race, even in a congressional race, if you're down 11 votes, you're probably going to lose. I mean, sorry, it's just the way it is. 1 vote, who knows? I mean, roll the dice. I don't know what's going to happen. If you tie in Texas, there's 2 ways you can resolve it. You can have a runoff, or you can flip a coin. Both parties have to agree to the flip.
What?
So Pilot Point's got a history of this. I don't know. We don't have enough time to get into that. But so what we need to do, and I was on the Andrew Wilco show. If you listen to Cirrus, it was a radio show today, and he asked me, "What are we going to do about the border?" Because we're going to win the House. I think we're going to end up disappointing. 223, I think. It should have been 243. Lots of races we lost by 1 point, 2 point, and we have to reconcile the fact that candidates matter. And not all districts are created equal. This district, you can have a firebrand conservative. Other districts, I don't know, they maybe have to be a little bit different to win. I don't want a Democrat communist that's never going to vote with us. I'll take somebody that's going to vote with us 70% of the time over that person, to be practical. Now, what I don't like, and Ray can hold this to this, I don't like it when we have this kind of a district and we won by 36 points where you have some sellout. You don't need that. But again, I think we need to be cognizant of that fact that districts in maybe Michigan are different than ours. But what we're going to do, and we have to do, is the executive branch is still going to be controlled by Joe Biden and the Democrats, socialists, Marxists, for the next 2 years. What we need to do is bring attention. We need to pass great legislation out of the House. Hopefully the Senate can pass it. You know, they're going to have the threshold with 60 votes with the filibuster. But some of it we can throw in reconciliation. But nonetheless, pass it out of the House of Representatives. And let the Democrats explain to the American people why they didn't pass great legislation, like the Lone Star Act. You know, where Texas, we filed that, which Texas, will be reimbursed for the billions of dollars that we spend on securing the border and keeping you safe. That's a federal, if they always scream about that, right? When we want to use our own resources to secure the border.
It's a federal role. It's federal responsibility.
That's how liberals look, by the way. Very unhappy people. Conservatives are very happy because we act out of love. Love of country, love of community, love of each other. But we need to keep the flame burning with the issue at the border. People are dying at the border, and they just simply don't care. Oh, hey, let me talk to you about this, Gary. 107,000 deaths to opioid overdoses last year in this country. Most of it from fentanyl, 80,000 people. Where's fentanyl made? China. Or as President Trump would say, China. That is asymmetrical warfare. We lost, if you look at the days that we were involved with World War II, from Pearl Harbor to victory in Japan, we lost 297 Americans every single day. 400,000 over that almost 4-year period. Well, 107,000 in 1 year is 293 a day. This is asymmetrical warfare being waged by the Chinese against this country. And we should say that on national TV, and every chance I get, I do. But there's going to be now, I'm going to have 222 colleagues roughly in the House. They all need to say it as well. And the 50 or 51 or 52 that we're going to have in the Senate need to as well. Because if we can pass great legislation from the Hill and he doesn't sign it, or he vetoes it, or it dies in the Senate, I mean, the American people need to know. So then they can be held to account. And our nominee, whether I think it's going to be 1 or 2 people, you know who they are, it's going to be the Governor DeSantis or President Trump. When they sit there and debate, that Democrat, whether it's Biden, I think it's going to be Biden, Newsom, or Buttigieg. All horrible, by the way. Equally terrible. But Biden is going to go, this is my prediction, he's going to go left, left, left. He's not going to change a thing. Because he wants to be combative and he's going to blame us. And then that's what he's going to run on, because he needs to get the nomination. His wife wants to stay in the White House. He doesn't know where it is. She does. She wants to continue to ride in the motorcade and in Air Force One, right? Yeah. So, don't even get me started there.
Oh, I won't.
That's what President Trump told me. He said, Dad, I don't even want to run again. I don't want to run. I ran twice and won twice. I had to run a 3rd time. You know why? This guy, his brain, it's dead. That's a direct quote. But we're going to keep the pressure on, keep the heat on, and that's our jobs. And we're not going to compromise our principles. Ronald Reagan proved, and Donald Trump proved in 2016, you don't need to be less conservative to appeal to the middle. You have to have a better message for the middle to understand why you're the better option for the country moving forward. And that's what we want, great candidates. I want to vote for people, quite frankly, that have life resumes, that have excellence in their backgrounds, whether it be in the military, business, public sector. I don't care if you're the greatest teacher in the world. You've never sat in front of a paycheck, but you were a school teacher and you're phenomenal. And you can communicate and you're a hard worker and you're a true conservative. Fine. That's success. You don't need to have billions of dollars. Success isn't measured by the size of your wallet, it's by the size of your heart and the accomplishments that you have. We need those kind of candidates across the board. Not somebody that simply I agree with on an ideological basis, but they're a moron and they can't conjugate verbs. We lost a seat in Michigan. No, sorry, it was Ohio. We could have won because we nominated a guy that lied about his service in combat. That's stolen valor. I can't vote for that person. If I was in that district, I would have probably voted for the Libertarian. It's very hard for me to vote for a stolen valor person. But that's who they nominated. We have to vet us. Yeah, I ran against an incumbent for the Senate in 2018. He spent $100,000 vetting me. You know, it's fine. So you know I'm vetted. So we got one more minute. Can I take some quick questions? I'm going to answer them as quickly as I can. So you ask them quick, I'll answer them quick. Go.
Jihads are going over, they're coming across the border. I met a guy named Tom Benson, who's a writer, they're crossing the border there, and I'm going to be translating Russian, and he's overheard the border.
Oh yeah, there are Russians, there are
And
Ukrainians.
I speak Russian, so I'm translating for him to continue to do the investigations.
Yes, because you know what Biden says about the secure border? Yeah. Yes. Right, right.
Will our new Congress hold the Biden family's feet to the fire?
Yeah, great question. I'm on oversight. We're going to have a parking space outside the Rayburn building, and it's going to say Hunter Biden, because he's going to be there so much. Okay, and he's going to have his own parking space. So is Alejandro Mayorkas. We're going to hold him accountable, and we're going to file impeachment proceedings against him. Not to get back at the Democrats and say, oh, you impeached Trump twice. No, because there is reasonable cause to impeach this man, because he said that the border was secure, then he got caught on a hot mic saying it's chaos, so he was lying on one of those 2 points. He lied about the Border Patrol agents. He knew they didn't whip anybody, and he went with that false narrative anyway. We are going to hold him to the feet to the fire, and we're going to see what he says and what he does when he comes in front of the Oversight Committee, and then we'll make a decision if we want to.
And call the border an invasion.
It is an invasion. Yeah, I've been doing it on national television because it is. It is an invasion. The governor of this state should declare it, and then we should force the issue. Force the federal government's issue. Make it a spectacle to where even if you lose, the American people in the other 49 states see exactly what's going on here. Do you think DeSantis would sit idly by if Florida had a border with a country that was invading us? No, he would not. And that's what we need to do. He keeps pushing it the feet to the fire. Real quick story about Governor DeSantis. He told that Republican legislature, you know what he said? Draw me an aggressive map. Draw me a map that's really good and fair. That's going to reflect Florida. And they gave him a weak map. He said, if you give me a weak map, I'm going to veto it. He gave him the weak map. You know what he did? He vetoed it. Give me a new map. He gave him the aggressive map. And we won all 6 of those districts. Wow. That's what you need to be. Be bold. I'm going to be bold right now, and I'm going to leave when I was supposed to on time. But it was a lot of fun. Thank you very much. I can't wait to come back when I don't have to leave and run to the airport. But thank you. God bless. America!